If you're in business and you've ever heard somebody say that your services or your product is too expensive, this episode is for you. Today, we are going to dive into not only why you're hearing that, but what you can do about it. So let's start getting you some money, shall we? Join me on the next episode of the Spiral Up Podcast right now.
Welcome to the Spiral Up Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lachelle Wieme, a peak performance coach and business strategist dedicated to helping you see what's possible within you, the blind spots that are holding you back, and the solutions to ensure success and fulfillment without the hustle. I use my secret sauce of metaphysics, brain science, and scripture to work with God to manifest your ideal life and business. If you're ready to create massive forward momentum in your business and bust through the blocks that drag you down, join me on the Spiral Up journey and create the clarity, confidence, and consistency to become the CEO that lives your life by design. It's time to create the sustainable impact, income, and time freedom you desire faster. Now is the time to spiral up.
Hey, friend, welcome back to the Spiral Up Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lachelle Wieme, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common objections that people get when it comes to selling your services or your products. It's too expensive. I can't afford it. Let me talk to my husband because I can't afford it. It's too expensive, right? And I just got to tell you that if you are hearing that, you are not alone. And if it really bugs you, you're not alone. You see, I absolutely have been there, and it's been a journey that I've gone through with both myself and my clients. And I cannot wait to take you guys through this, because what happens, I believe, when we hear this, especially when we hear it more often, we oftentimes will literally like spiral down, right? We will get into this mind suck of wondering whether or not our products or our services are worth it, wondering whether or not, we have what it takes to charge what we're charging. And we start to really beat up ourselves, especially if you're in a service-based industry where you're charging for something that you created yourself. I mean, it definitely was something that followed me throughout my entire entrepreneurial journey, but it got really bad when I was selling myself. You see, when I started sales, it was with a skincare company, and you guys, like, this was like top-notch skincare. I noticed a major difference in how I looked and how tired I looked, or not tired anymore, after I had been consistently using these products. And what was so fascinating to me is that the cost of the product is actually part of the reason for the transformation. I'm going to tell you about that and tell you that even with that, I still struggled. Okay. So let me tell you this. I was not washing my face at the time, and I just could not spend money or time on myself. Like, I really just did not deem myself worthy enough of that investment. And one day I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what the heck happened? I looked, wrinkly and tired and older than I should. And I decided that I was going to reach out to my friend Dawn, who had posted some things on Facebook that she had used. Right. And so she told me about the price. I'm like, like $150 for this skincare, regimen, plus another, like, I think it was like an extra $55 for the eye cream. And I remember thinking, like, I can't spend that, because at that point, the only thing that I was using was, whatever Pantene Pro V happened to fall on my face in the shower. So it was such a huge leap for me to go from nothing to essentially $200 every couple of months on skincare. But what happened is that investment was such a stretch for me that I ended up using it as directed, because I wanted to be able to turn it in for the 60-day money back guarantee. And I couldn't do that with my integrity if I knew that I hadn't used it as directed. And so, dang it, like, I wasn't going to miss a day. I wasn't going to, not let this stuff get used, and I wasn't going to let it just sit on my shelves because it was way too expensive. And so I used it as directed, and guess what happened? It actually worked, and I started looking younger, and I looked more rested, and it literally changed my life, because all of a sudden I started looking people in the eye more. I actually went out of my house without makeup on, and I began my entrepreneurial journey by selling this stuff, and then it morphed into all the things that I do in business coaching now. So it was literally the catalyst to everything that I can owe my life to. But the problem is that even though I saw what a great value this stuff was, I still struggled to sell it, because in my mind, it was still expensive. I still had my Pantene Pro V, falling on my face in the shower mentality, instead of knowing and owning the fact that this is worth every single cent that I was charging, right? Or what the company asked us to charge. And so what I find is that when we struggle with the cost of things and we struggle with selling them, we oftentimes will spiral down into this mindset of maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Or if it's something that we create ourselves, it's like maybe I'm just not worth it. Maybe I need to lower my price, right? Or if it's a company that, like when I was in network marketing, I couldn't change the price. So what happens? Oh, well, I'll throw in some extra things for you. Or, I'll do this or that. Or, you know what? I'll just give you my discount, right? Like, can you relate to that? I was doing that kind of crap all the time. Why? Because I didn't believe in myself and I didn't allow my belief in the product to shine through. And so then what happens is that we allow this downward spiral of our own like lack of a worth, or the doubt that we have that we actually are worthy or are good at sales or whatever the case may be. And we let it impact us. And we oftentimes then will lower our prices, or we don't charge what our prices are actually worth, right? Now, why does that matter? It matters because all of a sudden, if you're in network marketing, direct sales, you got this giant inventory of crap that you essentially are trying to get rid of in order to justify in your mind the price that it costs to sell what it is that you're asked to sell. And now you're essentially stockpiling all of these other products so that you can feel justified into charging what it is that the company's asking. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You're here to make money, right? The other thing that I see is that, especially when it comes to people who are in the service-based industry, where we set our own prices, like, hey, my course is X amount of money, or my coaching is X amount of money, we find ourselves not charging what other people are charging in the industry, or a price tag that is not reflective of our expertise and the number of years we've been in the business and all the things. We continually sell ourselves short and we undercharge. Now, why does that matter? Because many of the people that come to me for coaching are coming to me because they are tired, they are burned out. They're like, oh my gosh, Lachelle, like I hustle for the sake of hustling. I miss my family. I'm tired of working this hard and not getting ahead. Well, guess what, friend? You're not getting ahead because you're still charging too low of prices. And so it's going to take you 5 times or 2 times as many sales in order for you to make the same amount of money than if you would actually own who you are and what you're worth in that space, right? And so what I find is that when I'm able to work with my clients in my coaching programs and help them understand their worth and understand and own their expertise and what makes them special and stand out in the market, they then begun to start charging what they're worth. And now all of a sudden they're making as much money working less hours as they did before. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I do this before? Because you didn't believe in yourself. And that's okay. But now when we know better, we do better. And perhaps you need to have conversations with somebody like me that can help you to get to that root of why the heck you're not charging what you want. Okay. So the thing is here is that the objection of it's too expensive is rarely associated with the actual price tag. And it is most often associated with the subconscious beliefs of either the person selling the product or the person on the other end of that conversation. And so when I say that I had a money block, that I felt like this eye cream and the skincare was too expensive, my body literally gave out the message that it's too expensive. Now, I'm going to talk in just a moment about the importance of our biofield and energetic coherence. Like, so stay tuned in the next couple minutes where we're going to tackle that. But what I'm going to say to you guys is that the biggest belief that you have, the biggest objection that you have, the most dominant vibration that you have in your body will need to express itself in the outside world, okay? And that whatever you believe, your biggest objection is going to be the most often mirrored objection that you get from other people. And so what happens is that your biofield is going to leak that energy. And again, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But you also are going to find yourself, whether you realize it or not, displaying and communicating a layer of uneasiness and unsureness in your posture, in the tone that you use, in the word choices that you use, in the micro expressions that you have. Your body language is going to say, I'm not really sure. I mean, I get it. It's expensive. Let me just go ahead and give you a discount, right? Or you know what? Let me see what I can do. Before they even say anything, sometimes we're putting the objections in their mouth before they even say anything. And so what I want you to understand is that if you're hearing it's too expensive, most oftentimes it's because you have that objection yourself. You are doubting whether or not the product or service that you're selling is actually worth what you're charging. And you are literally communicating that with your body and your biofield. Okay. So the most common objection that you hear is the one that you need to work on the most up in here in your brain. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to acknowledge, though, is that we can only control what we can control. And that means that you're going to have conversations with people that are going to be reflective of their subconscious beliefs as well. So if you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the best eye cream in the world. Like, let me show you my pictures on my phone. Like, and I used to have these conversations, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like this has been a game changer for me. Like, I need to tell you about this, right? But that person is still stuck in the Pantene Pro V is falling on my face. I'm just fine. No matter what you say, no matter how eloquently you say it, no matter how perfectly perfected your script is, their subconscious belief is going to also be factored into this situation. So if they don't believe that they're worthy of spending money on themselves, if they don't believe that is going to work, I mean, oftentimes it doesn't reflect the fact that for example, my coaching, it doesn't reflect the fact that they don't believe that my coaching works. They believe that it works. They've seen the testimonials. They've talked to people. But they don't believe it's going to work for them because they don't believe that they're worthy of betting on themselves, right? Oh, dang it. That hits home, right? It's their stinking thinking that's holding them back. And we can only do so much. And again, I'm going to get into that in just a second, but I want you to acknowledge the fact that the person on the other end of this conversation is bringing in their stinking thinking, their crappy mindset, and the fears that they have around themselves that are going to factor into this equation. So when you allow yourself to spiral down into that doubt, spiral of I must suck, my product must be too expensive, I want you to just pause for a second and say, what of this do I need to own? And what of it do I need to release the outcome to God, right? And let them deal with their own stuff, but just know that, hey, I did my part. I offered it. I did very, very best. And I'm just going to pray that when and if the time comes that they're going to feel like I'm the right solution. Okay. Now, once you have essentially gotten to this place where you're like, okay, I keep hearing this. I keep hearing that it's too expensive. This is really where you need to step into your discernment as a very, one of the first steps. And for people who have been perhaps listening to the podcast for a while, or perhaps we've had a conversation, you know that I use something very simple in all of my coaching practices, which is called the flow state money method. And the flow state money method is very, very simple. It's literally 3 steps. The first one is to shift toxic thought patterns, which is what we just talked about, right? The second step is to have discernment, to not only trust that God is trying to guide you into the right decisions, but that you are trusting yourself that you're hearing him correctly, right? And this is one of the things that I absolutely love to teach my clients, because the moment that you start to trust yourself and the moment that you recognize that you are always divinely guided, you will start making decisions faster. You stop overthinking things. You stop being overwhelmed, because things just start to click, because you realize that you have all the answers inside of you and that your job is literally just to trust that. And I love teaching people that. Okay. So discernment is our next step. Now, when you're discerning what to do about this situation, like you've acknowledged it, like, holy crap, like I have heard this like several times now, like it's too expensive, right? So now you get to your discernment and you get to ask God, is this something that I need to look at as far as my business and the way in which I'm conducting things? Or is it because I have some inner work to do? And this is going to really help you to know where to focus your energy and your efforts, because oftentimes what happens is, especially high achievers like myself, and I'm guessing that if you're listening to this, you and I are a lot alike, that if you're a high achiever and you're getting to that desperate place where you're like, oh, I just need to figure this out, I just want to make this work, you're going to try everything. You're going to look at the inner work. You're going to look at all of the marketing and the ideal client stuff and all the things. You're going to do all the things. And then you're going to wonder why you're burnt out and overwhelmed, right? So discernment is the key here, friends. So when you discern, I want you to think about and ask for your guidance around this. Is it me? And do I need to work on my stinking thinking and my subjective or subconscious, I guess, communication? Or is it literally just a strategy that I have to tweak? And then we can go from that. So I'm going to talk about the discernment leading towards strategy first, because it might be simpler. And then we're going to go into the inner work stuff in just a moment. All right. So you've discerned it and you've figured out that, yep, there are some strategies that I need to implement differently. The first thing I want you to acknowledge, and these are things that I take my clients through as well, is really knowing who your ideal client is. Because when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And when you don't understand your ideal client, you very well might be offering things that are not what they're looking for, or perhaps in the price range that they're ready for. All right. So let me give you an example. I'm gonna just keep bringing it back to skincare because it's an easy example, right? Everybody in this world has skin. Everybody in this world has skin. Okay. But not everybody is, number one, ready to invest in good quality skincare. Number two, not everybody is even willing to wash their face. Like that was me, like for real, whatever, but it was me. So not everybody is actually wanting to do anything about it. Not everybody necessarily thinks that it's an issue or a problem. And so if you, or maybe, somebody is not looking for clinical grade skincare, maybe they're looking for something that's more organic or, from the holistic perspective. And so what I want you to do is to acknowledge the fact that you need to know your ideal client really, really well. You need to know that they are somebody who is looking to improve their skin, that they are ready to invest, they're ready to wash their face, and they're just literally just looking for the right solution for what it is that they have. Okay. Maybe this person has already tried different skincare and they know what they like, they know what they don't, and they're open to trying something new, right? Maybe they woke up that, one day like I did and like, holy shit, like, look at what the heck happened. Like, I need to do something about this. Now they're ready. They're ready to invest in whatever, right? And so I want you to just understand that you have to know your ideal client really, really well. And once you know your ideal client, that you can allow your messaging and your services to really to serve them. And so when I think about my strategies that I go through with my clients, and again, like we handle the stinking thinking first, then we go into discernment, and then I bring in the strategies of the follow through. And when we do the follow through on those things, it's really just, you have to know, what problem do you solve? You have to understand who has that problem. You have to be able to know inside of that person's head, why are they, staying awake at night? What are they secretly Googling that they're trying to figure out on their own? What do their text messages with their business bestie looks like, or their bestie in general? Like, what are the deep down fears that they have, and what do they think is holding them back? And what do they secretly desire more than anything? And what would that look like? And when you can understand that, that is when you make sure that your products or your services are tailored to that person, especially if you're in a service-based business. There's lots of things that I could do. But when I think about my ideal client, I have to make every decision of what I add to my programs and what I offer, because I know based on experience what is going to serve them the most. Sometimes it's what they're asking for, sometimes it's what I know they need. And it's this beautiful intertwining of that. But I have to understand my ideal client first. I have to understand what problem they have and what problems I can solve and how I can best do that to get them what they're looking for. And then because I understand that, now I get into their heads and I'm like, I get you. I see you. I understand what you're Googling at night. I understand what your biggest fears are. I understand what it is that you really want. I understand what we've already tried and what hasn't worked. And I understand why what I do is actually a better fit for that. And so all of that stems from knowing your ideal client really, really well, and then allowing your messaging to be in alignment with that. So if you're struggling with the you're too expensive objection, then you possibly need to ask yourself, is the strategy that I'm utilizing needing to be adjusted? Do I need to work on my ideal client? Do I need to work on my messaging and my sales process? Do I need to work on the product that I have that solves their problem? And that might be the issue, because if you know them really well and they can see the value in that you are the right fit and you are able to solve their problem, they're going to spend whatever. They're going to figure it out because you know it and you've allowed that process to be communicated, right? Now, another thing that you can do when it comes to the discernment of, do I need to adjust my strategy, is get feedback. Ask your current clients what they're loving about your program, what they're not loving about your program, and constantly be making adjustments to make it just the perfect fit like a glove experience for the people that you ideally would love to serve, right? So get that feedback. Now, I'm going to tell you, and this is kind of a soapbox digression here, but I will say that oftentimes people are scared to get feedback. Why? Because what if they tell me that I suck? What if they tell me that all of my stuff is not helping them? What if they tell me that I charge more than I'm worth? And it's so scary that they don't ask for the feedback. Guess what? Now we go back to the stinking thinking again. And we work out like, oh, look at this, just popped up. This revealed itself. And now we get to address that so that we get to go back to the discernment and the strategy. You know what I'm saying here? And so just know that if you're finding yourself like, yeah, that sounds great, but you might have some stinking thing that needs to be addressed. Okay. Now, we talked about strategy when it came to this comes from, or whatever, when it comes to discernment. Now I want to look at the inner work. All right. And I kind of alluded to that a little bit. Like you might already be struggling with some of this stuff. Like, oh my gosh, like I need another certification. So once I get that other certification, then I'll be able to charge that. So maybe I just need to keep my prices low. So we allow our insecurities, we allow our lack of worthiness, we allow our lack of confidence to impact the way we get to show up in the world. Okay. And maybe you've had a few people that have told you it was too expensive, or maybe you had a client who didn't get the results that you wanted, even though maybe they didn't do everything that you asked them to do. You still start wondering, gosh, do I have what it takes, or is this really worth what I'm charging? And all of those things are impacting your conversations when it comes to sales. Because see, what happens is that when we talk about coherence and we talk about the person reading your biofield in your body, what I mean by that is that we have to believe in what we're saying in order for it to have coherent energy. Our heart and our brain need to match. As man thinketh in his heart, so is he. We have to be able to believe what we're saying. And if we say that it's $149 and we're in the back of our minds and our heart thinking, oh, this is so expensive, I hope that they can afford it. But you could turn it on and off if you need to, and blah, 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 blah. And I can do this and this and this, and maybe I can adjust it and discount it and all these things. And we're thinking those things before they even say anything. What's happening is that you have now created static in between your head and your heart. And what's then happening is that your biofield, and I want you to think about yourself like a cell phone, we are constantly sending and receiving invisible energy, just like your cell phone sends and receives Wi-Fi and Bluetooth all day long. Our body does the same thing, and their mirror neurons in their brain, whether you are sitting next to them or whether they're on the other end of a Facebook message conversation or, the other end of a Zoom call, it doesn't matter. Distance does not matter. Their mirror neurons in their brains are literally wired for safety. And they will pick up within 1/10 of a second whether or not you are stable or unstable, meaning that you are saying and believing the same or if there's a disconnect. It is picking up if it's a solid connection between your heart and your head or if it's static. And so within 1/10 of a second, their brain is picking up and saying, is this person trustworthy? Can I trust them? Are they safe? And if you are saying one thing and but believing another, their brain is picking up on that as unsafe, not trustworthy. And they're going to say, no, I'm not sure if this is the right for me. It sounds like it's a little expensive. Versus when somebody comes in and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is literally the best thing that I've ever spent my money on. It has made a huge difference in my life and the life of people that I love, my kids. This is this and this and this. And oh my gosh, like I would love to tell you about it. Oh, how much is it? It's $149. And I feel like it is literally pays for itself month after month. Like, can I tell you more? there's a difference in the energy. There's a difference in the confidence. There's a difference in the coherence that the other person's picking up on versus like, yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of expensive and I know I can't really explain how it works, but I still think that this could really help you. There's a different energy there. And so I want you to acknowledge the fact that if you are not portraying this really amazing, stable, confident energy where you embody the feeling of what it is that you're saying, you're going to fall flat and you're going to keep hearing these same objections. And so you really do have to get to the root of what the heck's going on. Now, some of you guys might know exactly what the root is. Other of you might have to do what I call E4 trauma, subconscious work within my program, that we get to the root cause and we get into your subconscious and we have your subconscious kind of guide us to when that happened. And we can pick out between a 5-minute and 24-hour time period that is the root cause of this limiting belief, and actually can pluck it out, neutralize it energetically, and then put in the truth that can allow for you to then function from that point on. But the point is that there might be something going on inside of your cute little brain that is preventing you from coming across as really confident, which is why you keep hearing these same objections. Okay. So I hope that this helped to know that if you are hearing this a lot, that number one, recognize that could be you and what you got going on up here in your subconscious mind. It could be the person on the other end of the conversation. And you need to discern whether or not it's strategy or if it's you in your inner work that needs to be done, right? And sometimes it's both, and that's okay too. And perhaps you need to find somebody that can help you navigate what that looks like. One of my specialties is really uncovering some of those blind spots and those blocks that you can't see for yourself. So if that's something that you're like, oh my gosh, like this is so hitting home, just schedule a possibilities call with me. You're going to see the link inside the show notes, okay? But at the end of the day, I want to breathe in a little bit of encouragement to you. You can only control what you can control. Okay. And so that means that once you've worked on your inner work and you embody the belief that what you're doing is going to change lives, and you are working with people and you've gotten your strategy on point and you know your messaging is there and you know your ideal client like the back of your hand, then you allow yourself to release the outcome to God. Because that is the fourth step in manifestation, where you know that it's on its way, but you release the outcome, meaning that you don't hinge your successes or your failures on any one person or any one opportunity. You do what you can, you control what you can from the best place that you can, and then you release it, knowing that what that other person has going on is none of your concern, and that you are going to do the best you can and release the outcome. Okay. I hope that helps. If you are, needing a little bit of guidance, like for real, I am not charging any of my podcast guests for a possibilities call. Come on it. Let's see what's going on. I can give you a tailored plan of what you can do to make it work for you, and you'll have more clarity around what's going on. So if you are ready to understand some of those blind spots, those roadblocks, and have some exact steps on what you can do to make something happen, you're going to go ahead and want to do that. So in the meantime, I'm also going to point you to a free resource that I have. Sacred Coherence is a GPT that I wrote in the middle of the night. God helps me to kind of download this beautiful program, and you can go into it. You can use it to help you identify your clients a little bit better with this AI tool that I created that has biopsychology built into it, as well as my high vibe filter, so that your words that you use to communicate are going to land with people more likely. So make sure that you grab either one of those resources completely for free. And I'm so glad you're here, and I will see you at the next episode. All right, guys, see you next time.
So much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Each honest review helps me spiral up so that I can serve you even better. Whether you're feeling a lack of impact, income, or time freedom, or perhaps you're just ready for massive momentum in your business, let's chat. Apply for a breakthrough call so that you can gain clarity, identify what's holding you back, and make a plan to spiral up. Head on over to im-lifebydesign.com/breakthrough. or access the link in the show notes. For immediate support, log into our community, the Better Club. We focus on inspiration, tactical guidance, and support. This is a community that wants to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business, and we're going to help you do the same. Let's spiral up, friends.